Hello, everybody, and welcome along to X-Men, the animated series re-examined. You're back. It's episode 3 of season 2, and you are listening to it. And once again, it features me, Dan Bain, and my longtime friend and associate, Javier Hakeem.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? Welcome back.
Welcome back. We if you haven't heard the previous episodes, you don't need to listen to them, but gosh, this is a weird time to drop in, but nonetheless, welcome along. This is a show where we re-examine the X-Men cartoon from the early 1990s, almost 30 years later, asking ourselves, does it stand up? Does it hold up? Is it still good? Do we like it as grown-ups who theoretically have more sophisticated taste?
Yeah. Was it good, or was it is it just pure nostalgia that's kind of fueling the fire from this, the ember's still slightly warm, only really in your head? Yeah. Was it really burning that bright to start with? It felt like it at the time.
That actually makes the whole thing sound like quite a cynical undertaking, but
It really does. But trust me, there was genuine love for this at the time. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to this with like a little bit of bias here, Dan, because I'm going to be honest, I didn't enjoy today's episode so much. I found it just, what is this? It felt very much like just white noise all over the show. Anyway, I will give it.
Yeah. I feel like we might be in quite a similar place, but let's tell us what happened, Harv.
All right, here we
recap
go.
the episode for us. Tell us what happened, and then we'll have a chat about it.
Let's talk about this masterpiece here. Season 2, episode 3 is titled "Whatever It Takes," and I feel that might have been like the Al Pacino halftime speech given to everyone working on this episode that was working halfway through it, just going, "What are we doing, guys? What are we doing?" So this one is it's a bit of a global episode. We kind of go from Tanzania to Brazil to Antarctica. Basically, there's 2 plot lines going on here. One is the X-Men had found a rift in the astral plane in Tanzania, which is right by Storm's old village. And the Shadow King, who's a telepathic villain, takes over one of her villages. So Storm and Rogue go off and deal with that. And in the meantime, you got Wolverine chasing Morph, trying to bring him back to the X-Men to get the help he needs psychologically. And he's tracked him down in Brazil. And then at the very end, we get a little bit of Magneto and Professor X action. It sounds like they fuck each other, but they don't. I just said a bit of Professor X and Magneto action. Interaction. No, that sounds even worse. We get a little bit of Professor X and Magneto on screen. Yeah. Why does every I make it sound like they do something pornographic?
Yeah.
The story continues. Their story continues.
Their story, yes. I don't know. I don't know if that's helping either.
General thoughts about this episode, Dan?
General thoughts about this one. For quite some time, I was like, is this the next episode?
Yes.
And it wasn't until the Wolverine storyline began and he's chasing Morph, was I like, oh, yeah, no, this does follow on sequentially from what's just happened. And in some ways, I'm not quite. I think I kind of admire some things about this episode without enjoying them.
Do tell me how you could admire something without enjoying it, Dan. Oh, look at that. Look at how much I don't care about that. Wow.
Yeah. I quite like that there's a boldness to this episode that's just like, you don't need to know about this person. You don't need to know this. We're just going to jump straight into the
boldness or irreverence.
Yeah, well, could be either. So this whole Shadow King stuff just comes from fucking nowhere.
That's true. I forget that you probably haven't heard of the Shadow King before.
I think. So I might be mistaking it for something else, but did you ever see Legion? Did you ever watch that?
No.
I think he's the villain in that.
I think Legion is a series of it's an X-Men, it's X-Men universe, right? Because Legion is Professor X's son, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay.
So they made a series of that.
Right. And Shadow King was a villain in that.
I think so. He's like a psychic kind of parasite kind of guy.
I mean, first off, this series clearly left a huge impression on you. I think it happened. I don't know.
I just watched it ages ago. I actually quite enjoyed it. It was real trippy for a
it would be up your alley. Yeah.
Kind of
I can imagine like what did you watch this like 15 years ago or something? And you'd be like, it's a real mind fuck, and I love mind fucks.
No, it's fairly recent. Like Jermaine Clement is in it and plays like a toaster for a lot of the season. He's like a talking toaster.
Can we do a podcast about this series?
Yeah, it's quite good. And Aubrey, what's her name? Plaza is in it. And she plays Aubrey Plaza like she does in
every.
But if you enjoy that character, which I
clearly a lot of people do.
Yeah. She's in it. She's good. She's a fucking psycho in it. It's good.
Nice.
Anyway, I think he's in that. So I think it looks completely different. So I might be well off. But I at least had something to kind of ground myself on with this. But it just jumped and was like, what about this? What about this? What about this other villain that you've never... What about... Oh, by the way, did you know Storm has a son?
Yeah. I could see why you said, like, is this the next episode? Because it starts off in Tanzania with a kid having, like, a psychological attack. Of seeing the astral plane rift open up in the mountain while his other friends can't see it, and the Shadow King comes and takes over his body. And this is in, like, the first 30 seconds of the episode. You're like, okay, we're coming in hot.
Yeah, he comes in real hot.
Yeah. I do love that no matter what show you're watching, cartoon you're watching from the 80s or 90s, the universal sign for I've been possessed is different coloured eyes.
Yes.
I've got glowing red eyes. Unless you're Cyclops, it's going to be very hard to understand if Cyclops is ever possessed.
His eyes are glowing red. Possession, obviously. I'm not sure, kind of looking back at it, like, is this really bad storytelling, or is it really adventurous, like let's push, we're pushing forward, like let's just build the universe out.
Just gonna we're just gonna go, we're coming in hot, but trust me, in about a minute's time you're gonna love this. You're gonna love that we just fast forwarded all this. I was having a lot of thoughts when I was rewatching this episode. I was thinking a lot of the time I was just gonna go, I'm gonna ask Dan, is this good writing? What do you think about the writing of this episode?
Well, yeah, I think that's where a lot of my kind of question mark sits, right? Is I'm kind of 50-50 on, like, were these really good choices to just fast forward through stuff they didn't have time for, and maybe I wouldn't have cared as a kid, right? I guess that's the other thing. Yeah. But as an adult looking at it, I get this real sense of dislocation and going like, what is going on? So something I talk about a lot with kind of writing that I'm working with other people is the difference between mystery and confusion.
Yeah.
And that, like, a mystery is real fun. We love a mystery. Like, oh, what's this? What are we gonna? There's something to be unpicked here, and something to be kind of pulled apart.
I found a key.
Yeah. Oh, what is that? Oh, that must be good. Versus kind of confusion, which is just like, I have no idea what's going on, and I don't like it.
Someone keeps throwing keys in my face.
I know. And like, what? There aren't even any doors here. Like, can you please stop that? My primary kind of emotion coming into this episode was just confusion. I was like, what's going on? What
is this angry cloud doing going into this boy?
Not even kind of confused around, because there's always going to be like, an angry cloud went into the boy, or like something
that
weird
storyline.
I know. So someone has a power. Like, it's not even that. It was just like, wait, what? What are they doing here? who's what? Is this the like? It was all just
Yeah. I thought it was pretty a bit. So what happens is the X-Men get the alert that there's a big astral rift in Tanzania, which is Storm's old village, and she goes, I'm going to get his name wrong all the time. Mijnari, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Missionary. And she goes, they turn up there. By the way, what I did love is that they, when Rogue and Storm go there, they ultimately end up in this, like, what the 90s sort of like what an African village was. But it starts in like a metropolis of Tanzania. They start from there. So I think it was like the writers or someone going like, hey, by the way, we just got to show people that there are, developed cities in Africa. Okay, we're doing that. We're not just cutting straight to the village. Okay.
Yes.
We're going to have policemen in shorts. He's a policeman in shorts with pulled up socks. We're going to linger on him for a long time.
Yeah, that's going to be. That's going to tell people it's hot, and it's also going to be a comment on the.
Look at the order. Yeah, this policeman is really directing the shit out of this traffic
with his kind of British uniform in the tropics. It's going to showcase the lasting effects of colonialism. So that's what we're going to kind of do with this shot. Oh, okay.
And then to the huts.
And then straight to the huts.
Straight to the huts. There we go.
Straight to the huts. They're on fire. There's a panther.
They are using old tools to try to put out the fire ineffectually. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So Storm goes, there's this boy, Mijnari, and she goes, he's my son. And I was like, what? Because I can't remember this episode that much, right? And I was like, what? That's right. And then it turns out they do this flashback where another lady, she's gives birth to this baby, but the baby didn't breathe, and Storm gives it mouth to mouth. By the way, in this flashback, I don't know if the animators have ever seen the size of a newborn baby, but this baby is fucking huge.
Yeah. It's a beast.
It is a bald 5-year-old.
Yeah. It's a chunky boy.
No wonder the mother's not moving.
She's like, I can't give him mouth to mouth. Like, are you serious?
If I breastfeed him, I'll die.
I'm so knackered right now. Like.
Oh shit! So I found it a little bit weird when Storm gives this giant baby mouth to mouth. And because it looks so much like a 5-year-old, then when it starts crying like a baby, I found it really uncanny valley, kind of creepy vibes to it.
Yeah, it did have quite, that moment in E.T. where E.T. is dead in the ditch.
Yep.
Just kind of it felt a bit, like that. It's so big, and it has kind of proportionally, I don't know, reminded me of E.T.
Reminded you of E.T. in the ditch?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, that's the bit of E.T. that kind of stuck with me. And when it's in the cupboard. And it has those are the two kind of images stuck in my head about that film.
Poor E.T. in the ditch. I wonder if he's just lying there going, I flew 700,000 light years to end up in a fucking ditch.
I'm in a ditch. This is bullshit.
This is bullshit. Yeah. So they're there and they're trying to like find out. While Storm's kind of explaining that Mijnari is her son and this is why, like, not actually my son. I probably should have said God's son in some respect. Yeah. Did you notice that the Shadow King, like, Rogue starts saying something, and the Shadow King just like appears next to them and just starts talking? Like, I found it so jarring. Like, she's going, well, what I always say is, no, dear child, you have come. It was like, it felt like it was a play where a guy has missed his cue, like, we're coming too early.
Yeah.
Like, he's just gone, fuck it, I'm coming in. I hate this scene, and I'm just going for it.
Yeah. I literally did that. I replaced Roy Snow in the last week of Murder on the Orient Express.
Yes. Yeah.
And
did you come in too early?
I did. I was playing Marcel, the train conductor, right?
Right.
And he's got his big scene. The big scene is when all the different characters are arriving at the station to get on the Orient Express, and they all come via him. Right, he's kind of managing them all and ticking them off. So that was my big scene that I had to learn to kind of. I was actually very confident with it. I was less confident with the smaller scenes because, I had to rehearse this up in a week and kind of drop in and blah 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 blah. I was less confident with the smaller scenes because I actually did them. I'd rehearsed them less, whereas this big one I was pretty confident with.
Yeah. We put all the focus on this one.
Yeah, and the first night. I'm doing it, and I'm kind of smashing it. Quite frankly,
of course you are, mate.
Yeah, doing a bloody great job. The audience is like, "Oh, what about that train conductor? Oh,
yeah. I hear he's the understudy.
I know. Look at his hat. Oh, that guy can wear a hat for sure." Confident going along, and Dan Allen is playing Monsieur Bouc, who's the guy that runs the train company, and he's Poirot's friend, right?
Yeah,
and he just turns to me and kind of gestures.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that must be my line. Right? It's like, oh, no. He's been doing this for 6 weeks now.
Yeah.
Obviously, he knows that I should be talking now. And so I'm like, oh, let me take your luggage, madame. And everyone's like, what? And I'm like, oh, pardon.
Did you backtrack in real time?
Yeah. And I go off stage and I'm like, sorry about that. And Dan was like, oh, that was my fault. I don't know why I did that. He'd just gone I don't know. He was just off in another dimension and was like, please. And I'm like,
let me just scare the shit out of another actor here.
Oh, okay. I know. It was dreadful. And Blimmin, they were. Some of those actors were cruel to me. That was the first, and that same one. Kathleen comes in, and is facing upstage, so the audience can't see her, but looking straight at me. And it's this is she's the first character to her and Yvonne Martin, first characters to arrive, and they're both. So they're both looking back up at me in the triangle, right? If you imagine a little triangle, and Kathleen is just giving me all these kind of faces.
Oh, she's fucking with you, yeah.
She's but I'm like, because it's my first night doing it, I'm like, oh god, I've said something wrong, I've done something wrong, and she's giving me these faces to kind of, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What? I'm sure these are the lines. What's and and then so Dan is like, oh sorry, and Kathleen's like, oh, and I'm like, what happened? And she's like, oh, I was just fucking with you.
Oh, absolutely. That is a sign of a pro right there, people.
Merciless.
You know what? If anything, that is trust. That is her showing her trust in you, that she could be like, I could just give Dan all this shit, and I know he's not going to break. He's just going to be professional.
Yeah,
I want to freak him out under the surface, but I'm not going to ruin the play by doing this. Not like the Shadow King who just ran in and stomped all over Rogue's lines.
Good pulling it back, Harv. That was a long
That's what I do.
story.
That's what I do, guys.
Not about X-Men at all.
Oh,
but this episode doesn't have a lot.
If I had $1 for every time I had to get Dan Bain back on track, if I had to pull him back from okay, thank you, Dan. Let's go sit over here now.
I know.
Do you know what I found out about this? So the Shadow King reveals himself, and it's very quick to Storm, my old nemesis. Because short story, Shadow King is from Cairo, and he was a bit like Fagin. He ran a gang of local pickpockets and young criminals, typically children. Storm is recruited into this gang, and until she eventually runs away from the Shadow King. So she has beef with him. They immediately go to confront each other on top of a mountain, and Storm says, release the boy, you can take me. Well, the Shadow King says, actually, I want you and your delicious powers. He actually says literally, and your delicious powers.
Yes.
Which is just on the cusp of 90s kids creepiness that's appropriate. Yes. Yeah. The thing I noticed, I'm going to say it now, I've been holding on to this for a long time, I find Storm a bit boring, and it's because I realized in this episode, it's because she just always makes the right decision. She's got no edge to her, and especially for someone that is grown up as an orphan, as a street pickpocket urchin. Come on, show me some edge, but she's a little bit like, I know the right thing to do. Just like the elements, you can always count on me. And it's like, okay, well, it's a little bit boring after a while.
When they arrived at the village for the first time and bits of it are on fire, and Storm makes it rain to put the fire out.
Literally brings the rain.
Yeah. The rain's down in Africa. She says...
You can't see this, but he is so happy with himself.
Yeah, I know.
I could see the twinkle in his eyes. Like, did you see that? Yeah, we saw it, Dan. We all saw it. We heard it. Good on you, mate. Nice.
Thank you.
He's so happy.
It's been a while since I've felt that kind of joy. She goes, a storm of rain to quench the flame. And I'm like, Storm, maybe you should start rhyming. Like,
oh my God,
maybe that should be your thing.
I would love it for her to be her thing.
She doesn't have a thing. And it's like, yeah, maybe that's the edge you're looking for.
Storm, frustrated artist.
Yeah.
Shakespearean outcast.
Yeah. Because she does have a very like Ian McKellen kind of I'm going to do some declaiming kind of voice.
Yeah, that combined with the always having like the best wholesome decisions makes Storm a bit boring for me. I need a bit of an edge.
Yeah, it can feel a bit insufferable. Should we talk a little bit about Wolverine's adventure? Because he's in Brazil, kind of on like a riverboat up the Amazon.
Would you like
kind of
thing. Would you like to talk about the captain of this boat, Dan?
I found the captain very funny, and also that he had a monkey. I found the monkey very funny as well.
The monkey's name is Montgomery.
Yes, it's got a comedy name. It's eating a peanut.
A huge peanut, by the way. That's the biggest peanut I've ever seen. The animators don't know the size of babies or peanuts in this episode.
I know. It's like they got the two inverted.
Exactly. Yeah. So Wolverine's cruising down the Nile. He meets this Cockney captain of this boat. He's like, What are you looking for, mate? What? Someone that you can't, they can change. You're not one of them mutants, are you? I would have remembered, didn't I? Yeah. Oi, Montgomery, get off him. He's a paying passenger. Oh, here we are. Bleeding hell. He was such... What's this guy's backstory? How did you end up as like riverboat Cockney, Captain Cockney?
Yeah.
Wolverine immediately tracks down... First off, he gets off the boat and he does the old sniff and he's like, Morph's been here. We don't know how long he's been tracking him for or how many through different places. Anyway, he's in Brazil and he finds Morph in a bar working as a bartender. So that tells me that Morph has been at this bar for long enough to get a job working the bar.
Yeah. Or... He killed the bartender.
What am I thinking? Of course, he's just impersonating the staff. Jeez, this is why you're the writer, Dan. I was sitting here going, why would he get a job as a bar guy?
Yeah. No, I think the answer is much more disturbing. That bartender is dead in a bath.
like E.T.'s in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah.
So Wolverine comes in and immediately just confronts him and says, it's you, Morph. And Morph just picks up the bar and drops it on Wolverine.
Yeah.
Just picks up the bar, poof, just drops it on him. Like he's like upending a table of a game of Monopoly he's not happy with.
Yeah. Wolverine's kind of tracking him through the jungle and he falls into like a mine shaft or or something. Yeah. Okay. Yep. That's fine. And he's down there kind of sniffing around for him, and then Morph arrives and they have a confrontation, and Morph kind of shifts in, like he does a chunk of shape-shifting before he's about to fight Wolverine to kind of... Because he likes to he's psychologically messing with him. So he turns into Jean Grey before he runs out of the bar, which Wolverine is incredibly vulnerable to.
Oh my God, this is his Achilles heel.
Yeah, the fact that he's watched Morph transform into Jean Grey, that he knows there's no possible way it is the real Jean Grey.
But
nonetheless...
Still affected.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you know what? I thought Morph really turned that, he really twisted the knife when he turns into Jean Grey. He's like, oh, love, Logan. Every time I'm with you, I just can't stop thinking about how much I love Cyclops.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
yeah. It's pretty
burn,
savage.
bitch, burn.
Yeah. So yeah, he's being Jean Grey, and then while he's approaching him down in the mine shaft, he turns into like 3 guys in sequence, and it's
he turns into Deadpool. He turns into
Yes.
Deadpool. He turns into Omega Red, and he turns into Maverick. These are all characters that are associated with Wolverine in the comics. Omega Red will show up in the series later on. Deadpool, I think that's all you're going to see of Deadpool. Right. So technically not even Deadpool. And Maverick was a German mercenary from his old days of when Logan was working for Weapon X.
Oh,
being
yes.
a weapon they sent around to be
in the Canadian
and
team.
No, that's different. That's Alpha Flight. But we will get to them as well later in subsequent episodes. But yeah, so this was. I mean, I think they just really did this for the fans, for the little Easter egg for the fans of for them embodying that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's pointing at the TV when he's like, oh, it's Deadpool. Oh, it's Omega Red. Oh, it's Maverick. Oh, wow.
Yes.
And then Morph does something I don't think we've seen him do. He turns into animals. He turns into like a panther and a rhino and seems to have the strength of these animals as well. This is one thing that's always inconsistent with shapeshifters in the animated series and sometimes in the movies of if you shapeshift into something that is really strong, like if you shapeshift into the Hulk, that doesn't give you does it or does it not give you the strength of the Hulk,
Yeah,
it seems to give him the strength of this rhino.
Yes, it certainly does. I had some big kind of question marks over this as well. Also, I don't know if you remember, but back in Africa, when they're showing how fast Minaj can run.
Oh, we didn't mention that. Yeah, he's who can run.
Oh yeah, he's got fast running powers.
Yeah. They show him.
They show him running against a panther. And then in this one, Morph turns into a panther, and I was like, did they just have an animator who was real keen?
Yeah.
I was like, guys, can we get some panthers into it? It makes no sense for it to be a panther in Africa on the plains. What about a cheetah? Nah. I'm real good at drawing panthers.
Yeah, but the cheetah is known to be the fastest cat, and they're in Africa. So if we could have him drawing running past a cheetah, could we do that, please?
No. Black Panther. It has to be. Okay.
We are running so low on animators as it is. Look at this scene with Logan at later, where she's not even looking. Her eyes are looking in different directions. At one point in this episode, I was like, "Come on, guys, how close to lunch was this scene? Just fix up the pupils. That's all you got to do. You don't need to." Anyway, so this guy has got a hard on for panthers.
I think so. I mean, I can kind of buy shape-shifting, right? It's like, okay, he can rearrange from shape-shifting to one person to another person, right? It seems to be. And there's also kind of question marks about and what about his clothes? Does he actually wear... Here's a question for you. Does Morph actually wear clothes?
God damn, you have done me, Dan. You've absolutely done me, mate. I've got no idea. I thought I did know, but now I don't know anything.
Does he wear clothes?
Well, the thing is, if he is wearing clothes,
what happens to his clothes?
What happens to his clothes? I have to say he's not wearing clothes.
Yeah.
Because if he was wearing clothes, right, they would stay on him, and if they change, that would mean that he not only can rearrange his own molecules, he can suddenly rearrange molecules of things he's wearing, and that opens a whole big door. A banana becomes a gun. It's absolutely right. Absolutely right. So I'd say he's not wearing clothes.
Canonically, he has to be naked, right? And he has decided that he will morph his form into the appearance of himself wearing clothes.
Yeah.
So
for our benefit.
For our benefit, yeah.
He is so beyond what he looks like, his appearance, okay, guys? He's not a vain... When you're a shapeshifter, you don't give a shit, right? Because, if he wanted to, he could be like, I'm going to go naked, I'm going to give myself a huge dick.
Yeah.
I could also do that.
Yeah.
And then someone said, this is a kid's show.
Right, fine,
Saturday
fine.
morning cartoon.
All right, I'll morph my skin into pants.
With a huge bulge.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll make the concession for pants, but We're going to know that I'm packing heat down here.
No deal on the rest.
Yeah. So but the other so his clothes aren't real. That's fine.
Yeah.
Which explains why everyone that he turns into is wearing clothes as well. They're not actually wearing clothes. It's his skin turned into their clothes.
Yeah.
But the thing that really kind of irks me is when he changes mass.
Yes. That's why I'm like, you can't be as strong as a rhino because a rhino's twice the size of you.
Exactly.
That's the same mass spread over twice the size. Or,
So even if he is a rhino,
size.
if he can turn into a rhino, he has his...
He's like hollow rhino.
He's exactly.
Rhino.
He's like a balloon instead of like a sack of meat, like a person. He's like...
This is how Dan sees people. He's just sacks of meat.
That's what he usually he's a sack of meat. But at the moment he is a balloon of meat. So all the meat is pushed to the edges.
Yes. Imagine salami strung together and then blown up.
Yeah.
That's what Morph is at this time.
Yeah. There's a sausage with a bike pump.
He turns into the rhino, but he rams Wolverine into the wall hard. This is a cartoon, and when he rammed Wolverine as a rhino into the wall, even I went, "Oh Jesus, that looked like it hurt."
Yeah, too much.
Not as much as the Cyclops comment from G. Gray. Cyclops. Not as much as that, but that hurt.
Well, Morph is handing out damage this episode. And the other thing is that he turns. He's done this in the past as well. He turns into Wolverine and then has Wolverine claws and then will kind of hand-to-hand sword fight Wolverine with the claws.
It was very subtle in this episode. So he does that. It's very subtle. And blink and you miss it. But Wolverine slices through his claws and actually lops off a piece of him. And with those bits of claws, of morph claws that go off, I'm like, does that mean he loses that bit of forever, or does it like T1000 back to him?
Yeah,
that's part of his mass, right?
Yeah,
and it's gone. It's been cut off him. Like, does he just lose that, or I'm sure they just do it reabsorbs or whatever. But again,
but
just
it also
show the claws doesn't mean there's adamantium or sharp. It's just a show.
And it also if he regenerates that, like. Now you've just given him another power.
Yeah.
This
I've always thought like shapeshifters. The whole conceit behind the shapeshifting is deception. That's essentially the crux of the power.
Yeah,
because otherwise you have people just like being able to shapeshift into anything, just being like completely OP. You know?
Yeah, I like in the first season, and I think in a lot of the films as well. Where Mystique is like a main character. She's very much like my ability is I change shape and I infiltrate things and then I shoot people with a gun. Like
yeah.
If I need
turn
to
it to
do
someone
anything.
I would turn it to someone that you wouldn't suspect to have a gun, but I've got a gun. I've got one.
Boom. There's it. And I think that's I think that's a better use of shapeshifting as a thing.
So this kind of interaction here with Wolverine and Morph, it ends with Wolverine saying like, "I gotta help you. Come with us. The X-Men can help you," and it ends with Morph running away saying, "I've got to do this on my own." And that's kind of where it's left.
Yeah.
And the other story kind of wraps up where they trick the Shadow King back into the rift in the mountain, and then. Mejnari runs in there, runs out. The astral plane is cuckoo. And he runs in. Shadow King chases him. He runs out, and the seal closes, and everything's back to normal, kind of. I found this story just so, like, I don't care. It's such a nothing. It didn't feel like the stakes were really, like, it didn't feel like the stakes were raised, but they were, because Storm was about to kill herself. I thought that was quite a nice move where she's possessed by him, and she decides to fly up into the atmosphere where she loses oxygen and can't breathe, and she's going to sacrifice herself. But even when that was happening, I was like, I don't really care that much. Like, it's... I really kind of did not enjoy this story. Like, just kind of meh.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that it felt a bit weightless.
Yeah.
And when you say no stakes, it's like, yeah, there were stakes, but we didn't know enough about why they were important.
Dan, I'm confused. I think I, on paper, should have liked this episode because the stakes were quite high, but yet I don't feel like they were. Can you explain that to me?
I'll try. I think that the main reason is because we didn't care about the characters. There were too many. We're too busy kind of recovering from the surprises of the reveal of them. Like, where it's like, hi, it's me, Storm. Oh, by the way, I have a son. Also, it's not my son, but I call him my son. He's a giant baby. Also, he can run really fast. Do we care about that? Not really. Like, no. By the way, here's another theoretically incredibly overpowered, like incredibly powerful villain that you've never seen before, you've never met before, you don't know anything about it. Here's a 2-second kind of like, oh, him and Storm have some past. I think we were just throwing too many things new that even though it was all quite cataclysmic, like, oh gosh, this super being is possessing one of our protagonist characters and whatnot, we just didn't care. Because where did it come from, and then where did it go? And in that way,
where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Exactly, and that isn't the Shadow King really Cotton Eye Joe?
Someone that came out of nowhere, overstayed their welcome, and just as quickly faded away.
Yeah, exactly. Bid-up-bid-im.
Yeah. The episode ends with a little kind of going back to Magneto and Professor X. Oh, that hot Magneto Professor X action I've teased before. It's here. Right. I like how we start with like them crawling out of the snow. Professor X and Magneto find themselves in the Savage Land. Magneto explains that he's been here before, that it's a place that's been perpetually covered by mist, made by people beforehand for purposes unknown. And in this place, they find out that Magneto has lost his powers and that Charles Xavier can walk. So, mileage may vary when you enter the Savage Land, whether it is awesome for you.
You get a coin flip.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's see if you've lost powers or gained them.
Yeah.
But to be fair, Professor X has also lost his telepathic powers.
Yes. But not only is Professor X able to walk, he's also able to run immediately. He's a great runner. And swim. He's an incredibly good swimmer as well.
Yeah, it turns out that floating wheelchair has been stimulating those muscles because they have not atrophied at all.
No, he is athletic.
Yeah, the guys have been hitting the squats telepathically, I guess. Magneto, they're attacked by a couple of henchmen riding raptor pterodactyl type things. One of them picks up, I found this quite oddly funny. One of them just comes and grabs Magneto like a rabbit being grabbed by a hawk. He just kind of hits him. Yeah. And oh shit! It's because it happens so quickly. It's quite funny. It wasn't release me. It was just and he's I swear Professor X was looking one way. He looks back and he's like, "Oh shit, where'd he go?" And up to the skies. And then
he throws a boomerang at him.
Yeah, it's Professor X's latent mutant power is always having a boomerang on hand, just in case.
Yeah, or just able to reach for a stick that will immediately be boomerang shaped.
It's unclear. Do you think he had when he realized he didn't have his telepathy, he was he just grabbed a stick and just held it, or in that moment he found a stick and just oh shit, stick, and just threw it?
I think he. My impression was he picked up a stick at that point that was very convenient, boomerang shaped.
But the funny thing is, it didn't need to be a boomerang. It didn't. It could have been anything. It could have been a rock.
I think a rock would have been much better.
We wouldn't be sitting here talking about the theory behind the rock.
Yeah. Why was there a rock on the ground that he was able to throw?
Yeah.
Rather than this, kind of makes perfect sense.
Just a stick perfectly shaped like a boomerang.
Yeah.
When did you get so good at throwing boomerangs, Professor X? That is a 1 in a million shot. He does this 1 in a million boomerang throw, hits the rider, and they release Magneto, who falls into a river, and then Professor X just jumps in, lifeguard styles, and says, I'm coming to get you, and then they find themselves, oh no, it's a waterfall, because of course it is, because it's a cartoon.
Of course it is.
I would have enjoyed this episode. I would have taken everything back negatively I've said about this episode if Professor X had looked up and thrown the boomerang, and the boomerang just missed completely, and Magneto looked back at him like, the fuck were you doing?
Dude! Yeah.
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 That's the only change I'd make to this episode.
Yeah.
The rest is too messy. That would redeem all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, guys, we've made... It's a bit... Should we just end on a joke? Maybe if we just end on a good joke, like we can't fix this. Look, it's already drawn. They've done the voices.
Yeah,
we can change one thing.
This is the improv scene that has gone badly, and just like we just need to get one laugh, and we can stop this. One laugh.
If we just get a gag.
Yeah, anything.
We can pull it down.
Anything. Yeah. Get that boomerang. Get it. I've got an idea. Yeah. So there you go. I think overall this might be the episode that we've collectively both gone like, no, I didn't enjoy this one.
Didn't enjoy this one. No. And even the moments that I did enjoy of it were kind of, they didn't offset the rest of it.
Yeah. There was no moment in this episode where we went like, oh, cool. Yeah, that's right. The X-Men are cool because of that. That thing I just saw didn't happen. Yeah. So there you have it. Sorry to end it on a downer, everyone, but you can't win them all.
Can't win them all. I mean, it's been a pretty consistent run up to this point. With like either being like, oh, that was great, or like that was good.
Yeah.
And it was just the episode prior to this as well, perhaps, was shakier than I'm used to.
I mean, at least it had Spring Heel Jack.
That's true. It's very true. And this one, oh well. First disappointment. Let's hope it's a one-off.
Yeah, at least it wasn't a two-parter. Mercifully, it was a one episode. It was one-off.
Yeah, one and done.
Yeah,
we'll find out if if things recover next week when we move on to our next episode. And we'd love to have you back for that.
Join us.
You can, of course, join us. Come along. Watch the season. Are you rewatching it? You should rewatch it. It's it'd make a lot more sense of a lot of what we're talking about.
You should totally watch the episodes and then listen to this podcast.
That's a great idea. What a way to experience this media.
What a way to spend your time.
What a way to spend your time. I mean, it's easy to waste time. This is as good a way as any.
Damn right.
Subscribe to it. On subscribing to podcasts, there are 1,000 different methods in which to do that, and all of them are available to you. So just do that. Of course, the best thing you can do to help out the show is if you have a friend who loves the X-Men or loves two people talking, then this is definitely the podcast for them. So feel free to recommend it to them. You can find Harvey and myself on the internet, and how to see us perform live comedy is available there. So do that. Otherwise, we will see you next week for the next episode.
Thanks very much, everyone, for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Cheers, Harv.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dan.
Are podcasts too interesting? Especially if you use them to fall asleep. I'm Dan Bain, and all 4 seasons of my podcast, Sleepy Time Mumbles, are interesting enough to listen to, but not interesting enough to keep you awake. Sleepy Time Mumbles, a podcast you can miss, wherever you get your podcasts.